Welcome to our channel. Today, we pause to remember a life that touched hearts and left a lasting impact. We'll explore their journey, the challenges they faced, and the moments that made them unforgettable. Join us as we honor their story, celebrate their legacy, and reflect on the memories that will continue to inspire and live on in the hearts of those who knew them. The news was confirmed quietly on the morning of February 11, 2026. Bud Cort, the gentle and unusual presence who once defined a generation of American film, had passed away at the age of 77. For many, his name brought back a certain feeling, a time when cinema was strange, honest, and searching. Walter Edward Cox, known to the world as Bud Cort, was never a typical Hollywood star. He did not fit the usual image. He did not chase loud fame. Instead, he carried a quiet intensity that made audiences lean in closer. Born on March 29, 1948, he grew up with a deep love for performance. Acting became his way of understanding the world. In the late 1960s, when American cinema was changing, Bud Cort found his place in that shift. His early role in Robert Altman's MASH * introduced him to audiences. But it was in 1970's Brewster McCloud that he began to stand out. His performance was unusual, soft-spoken, and filled with an almost childlike wonder. Critics noticed. Viewers remembered. Then came 1971. Harold and Maude would become the film that defined him. In it, Cort played Harold, a lonely young man obsessed with death, who forms a deep and unexpected friendship with an older woman. The role could have felt strange or distant. Instead, it felt human. His performance was quiet but powerful. His stillness spoke louder than words. He earned nominations for both a Golden Globe and a BAFTA award. But more importantly, he earned something lasting, the love of audiences who saw themselves in Harold's sadness and curiosity. Film historian Mark Harris once reflected, Bud Cort gave us permission to be different. He showed that fragility on screen could be strength. That truth followed him throughout his life. The success of Harold and Maude made him a symbol of counterculture cinema. He became the face of a generation that felt out of place, searching for meaning in a noisy world. Yet Hollywood can be unpredictable. The intense spotlight of early fame slowly dimmed. Cort did not disappear. He adapted. In the decades that followed, he took on supporting roles that added quiet depth to major films. Audiences saw him in Electric Dreams in 1984. Later, he appeared in Michael Mann's Heat in 1995. He stepped into bold, modern stories like Dogma in 1999, and later in The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou in 2004. He was never loud in these roles. He did not need to be. His presence alone carried history. Colleagues often described him as thoughtful and kind. One former co-star shared in a tribute, Bud was gentle on set. He listened more than he spoke. And when he spoke, you paid attention. Another filmmaker wrote on social media, he reminded us that cinema is not just about heroes. It is about human beings. Behind the scenes, Bud Cort valued privacy. He stepped away from fame when it became overwhelming. He once said in an interview, "I never wanted to be bigger than the story." That quiet humility shaped his career. His life was not without challenges. Like many young actors who rise quickly, he experienced the pressure of sudden recognition. Yet he remained grounded. He continued to work steadily, choosing projects that interested him rather than those that promised attention. Over time, Harold and Maude grew into a cult classic. New generations discovered the film. They found comfort in its strange beauty. They found comfort in him. The film's message, about love, life, and choosing joy even in darkness, felt timeless. And Bud Cort's performance remained at its heart. On February 11, 2026, that heart stopped. The cause of death was not immediately shared publicly, but tributes poured in from across the film community. One longtime fan wrote, "Harold taught me it was okay to feel different. Thank you, Bud." A fellow actor posted, "You carried vulnerability with grace. Rest peacefully." As news spread, clips from Harold and Maude began circulating again. Young viewers watched him for the first time. Older viewers returned to a familiar face. In that way, his work continued its quiet journey. Bud Cort may never have fit Hollywood's mold. But perhaps that was the point. He represented the outsider. The dreamer. The young soul who felt out of step with the world yet refused to stop searching for meaning. Through gentle expressions and soft pauses, he created something lasting. His legacy is not built on blockbuster numbers or loud headlines. It is built on connection. On the silent understanding between actor and audience. Even now, his image remains, standing beside Maude, listening, learning, slowly choosing life. And so, Bud Cort will be remembered not as a star who burned brightly and vanished, but as a steady light. A reminder that being different is not a weakness. It is a gift. In the quiet frames of American cinema, his spirit remains. The news was shared softly on February 10, 2026. Jim Robson, the trusted voice of hockey for generations of fans, had passed away. He was 91 years old. Across British Columbia and far beyond, homes that once echoed with his steady calls felt a little quieter. For many, Jim Robson was not just a broadcaster. He was part of winter itself. Born and raised in Port Alberni, British Columbia, Robson grew up in a small coastal town where community mattered. Sports were a gathering place. Even as a young man, he showed a love for storytelling. He understood that a game was more than numbers on a scoreboard. It was emotion. It was memory. His broadcasting career began in local radio. The settings were modest. The audiences were small. But his voice carried something special, calm, clear, and honest. Over time, that voice found its way to a much larger stage. Jim Robson became the play-by-play announcer for the Vancouver Canucks, a role that would define his life's work. For decades, he narrated the highs and lows of the team with steady passion. He did not shout for attention. He did not try to make the game about himself. He let the game breathe. Fans remember the rhythm of his calls. The way he painted the ice with words. The way he allowed a goal to rise naturally in excitement, without losing control. A former colleague once said, "Jim didn't just describe hockey. He understood it. And he respected it." That respect earned him trust. Through playoff runs and rebuilding seasons, Robson remained constant. Families listened to him on car radios during snowy drives. Grandparents introduced his voice to grandchildren. In living rooms across Canada, his commentary became tradition. He was later honored with the Order of British Columbia. The recognition reflected not only his professional skill, but his impact on community life. He had become part of the province's cultural fabric. Yet those who worked beside him often spoke more about his kindness than his awards. Broadcaster John Shorthouse once shared, "He was a mentor to so many of us. Calm under pressure. Always prepared. And always generous with advice." That generosity shaped a new generation of sports announcers. Robson believed the audience deserved honesty. He avoided exaggeration. He chose clarity over drama. In an interview years ago, he said, "The game is exciting enough. My job is to guide people through it." That simple philosophy defined his style. Even after stepping away from full-time broadcasting, his presence remained strong. Special appearances were greeted with warm applause. Fans would often tell him that his voice had carried them through important moments in life: weddings, losses, celebrations, long winters. His passing brought an outpouring of tributes. The Vancouver Canucks released a statement saying, "Jim Robson's voice shaped the history of our franchise. He connected generations of fans with grace and dignity." One longtime supporter wrote online, "Listening to Jim felt like sitting beside a trusted friend." Hockey won't sound the same. Through changing eras of media, through television growth and digital platforms, Robson remained rooted in tradition. He believed in preparation. He believed in respect for players and listeners alike. Most of all, he believed in the power of voice. A voice can do many things. It can inform. It can comfort. It can unite strangers into one shared moment. Jim Robson's voice did all three. On cold nights, when the puck dropped and the crowd roared, his steady tone brought order to chaos. He gave shape to memory. He made moments last longer than the final buzzer. Now, that voice has fallen silent. But its echo remains. In archived recordings. In highlight reels. In the hearts of fans who can still hear his calm call rising over the sound of skates on ice. Jim Robson will be remembered not only as a broadcaster, but as a companion through decades of Canadian sport. He stood behind the microphone, never seeking the spotlight, yet becoming unforgettable. As arenas light up and games continue, his influence endures in every careful call and every respectful pause. And somewhere, in the rhythm of a winter game, his voice still feels close, steady, familiar, and forever part of the story. The racing barns in Maryland felt unusually still as the news began to spread. King Taylor Leatherbury, one of the most respected trainers in American horse racing history, had passed away. He was 92 years old. For decades, his presence had been part of the rhythm of the track, steady, focused, and deeply committed. His passing marked the close of a remarkable chapter in the sport. Born into a life that would soon revolve around horses, Leatherbury learned early that success on the track did not come from noise or pride. It came from patience. It came from discipline. Those who knew him often said he understood horses in a quiet, almost instinctive way. He began training at a young age, building his career step by careful step. The early mornings were long. The work was demanding. But he never rushed the process. Over time, the results spoke for themselves. King Leatherbury rose to become one of the winningest trainers in United States history. He ranked 5th all-time in career victories, a milestone reached not through flash, but through consistency. Year after year, his horses performed with strength and heart. Maryland racing became his home. At tracks like Laurel Park and Pimlico, his name was spoken with respect. Owners trusted him. Jockeys valued his guidance. Stable workers admired his calm authority. A fellow trainer once said, "King didn't chase headlines. He chased excellence. And he did it the right way." That quiet excellence defined him. Leatherbury was known for his leadership style. He rarely raised his voice. Instead, he led by example. He arrived before dawn. He stayed long after others had left. He believed that preparation was the foundation of every victory. He also believed in people. Many young trainers began their careers under his guidance. He shared knowledge freely, never guarding his experience. One former assistant remembered, "He taught us that patience wins more races than pressure." He cared about the horses, but he cared about us too. That balance made him more than a record holder. It made him a mentor. Throughout his long career, Leatherbury trained countless winning horses. Some brought major stakes victories. Others simply showed steady improvement under his care. To him, each horse deserved the same respect. He once said in an interview, "Every horse has a story. My job is to help them tell it." It was a simple statement. Yet it captured his philosophy perfectly. The racing world can be fast and competitive. Trends change. New methods appear. But Leatherbury remained rooted in fundamentals. He trusted experience. He trusted hard work. As years passed, his achievements continued to grow. Plaques and trophies filled his office. Yet visitors often noticed that he spoke more about the animals than about himself. When news of his passing was confirmed, tributes came quickly from across the country. The Maryland Jockey Club released a statement saying, "King Leatherbury was the heart of Maryland racing. His integrity and dedication shaped generations." On social media, one longtime racing fan wrote, "He trained with wisdom and kindness. The sport is better because of him." Beyond statistics, his true legacy lives in the culture he helped build. He strengthened Maryland's racing identity. He proved that greatness can be quiet. Even in his later years, he remained connected to the track. Watching morning workouts. Offering advice. Smiling softly as younger trainers carried forward what he had taught them. Now, the barns stand a little quieter. But his influence does not fade. It lives in the disciplined routines he set. In the trainers he mentored. In the horses that ran with courage under his care. King Taylor Leatherbury will be remembered not only for his remarkable ranking in history, but for the way he carried himself with calm dignity. He showed that leadership does not need to be loud. It needs to be steady. As the gates open and the next race begins, his spirit rides alongside every competitor who values patience, integrity, and quiet strength. And in the golden light of the racetrack at dawn, his legacy continues to move forward, one stride at a time. The hills of Iowa felt especially still as the news was shared. Gregory Dane Brown, the quiet voice of America's back roads, had passed away. For those who followed his music, the loss felt personal. His songs had always sounded like letters written by hand, simple, honest, and close to the heart. He was never drawn to bright lights or large stages. Instead, he found his strength in small towns and open skies. Born and raised among the rolling fields of Iowa, Brown grew up surrounded by hard work and simple living. The rhythm of farm life shaped his early years. Church hymns, local gatherings, and front porch conversations all found their way into his memory. Music came naturally to him. Not as performance, but as reflection. He began writing songs about everyday life. About faith that felt steady one day and uncertain the next. About laughter shared between neighbors. About doubts whispered during long drives on quiet roads. His voice was warm and unpolished. It did not demand attention. It invited it. Listeners often said his music felt like a friend speaking truth without judgment. His lyrics carried humor and sorrow side by side. In one verse, he could make someone smile. In the next, he could bring quiet tears. A fellow folk musician once shared, Gregory sang about ordinary people with extraordinary care. He made small moments feel sacred. That gift set him apart. While many artists chased radio hits, Brown stayed close to his roots. He performed in modest venues. Community theaters. Outdoor festivals. Churches and local halls. He valued connection more than fame. Over time, his songs traveled far beyond Iowa. Folk audiences across the country discovered his work. They found comfort in its honesty. He often said in interviews, "If a song tells the truth, it will find the right ears." That belief guided his entire career. His music explored faith with openness. He spoke of belief not as something perfect, but as something lived and questioned. He was not afraid to admit doubt. That vulnerability made his songs feel real. Fans appreciated that balance. One listener wrote online, "Gregory's music met me where I was. It never tried to preach. It simply understood." Another tribute read, "His songs felt like home, even if you had never been to Iowa." Beyond music, those who knew him described him as humble and thoughtful. He preferred long conversations over public praise. He enjoyed simple routines. Morning coffee. Evening walks. Time with family. Though he achieved recognition in the folk community, he carried it lightly. Awards and reviews were appreciated, but they were not his focus. What mattered most was whether a song had meaning. As news of his passing spread, fellow musicians shared their memories. One longtime collaborator said, "He reminded us that art does not have to be loud to be powerful." His quiet strength changed many of us. That quiet strength remains part of his legacy. Gregory Dane Brown proved that storytelling does not require grand stages. It requires honesty. His music offered comfort to those searching for hope. It offered laughter during heavy days. It offered gentle wisdom without pressure. In an industry often driven by fame, he chose authenticity. He chose to stay grounded in the soil that raised him. Now, the roads he once sang about stretch on without him. But his songs continue to travel. They play in living rooms. In cars driving through open fields. In headphones during late-night reflection. Each note carries a piece of his steady spirit. Gregory Dane Brown will be remembered as a songwriter who found beauty in the ordinary. A man who trusted that simple truths matter. A voice that did not need to shout to be heard. As the Iowa wind moves through quiet hills, it seems to carry a familiar melody. Soft. Honest. Enduring. And in that gentle sound, his legacy lives on, reminding the world that sometimes, the quietest voices echo the longest.